Welcome back to the Loco Experience Podcast. My guest today is Phil Gottula, and Phil is the founder of and owner-operator of FLEXX Productions here in Fort Collins and operations all around the state, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
What kind of wine did you bring us today?
I brought us a white wine from Reprise. It's a winery that Stacey and I went to here this last year in the California area.
Oh, wow.
And
That's really nice. That
yeah.
feels very honoring that you would bring one of probably, I mean, I don't imagine you grabbed three, maybe you did buy 3 cases and it's just kind of one more bottle.
No, yeah.
It's more special than that.
It
feels special. I'm honored.
we could talk to Stacey of did I choose the right bottle of wine out of the cabinet or not. So, but I enjoy a good conversation and a glass of wine.
You are you're both things, kind of a philosopher as well as a blue collar guy.
Boy, I've never heard philosopher come out.
No,
as far as a name used. I guess
You're a thoughtful guy.
So
you always have been.
Yeah, I think you put out there, what you're thinking, and sometimes it's not always right, and agree. And the older you get, the more wisdom and the more you want to listen. That's what I've kind of like taken back in the past couple of years and the experiences that have come in, I think, into my life.
Yeah, that's fair.
We could dig down on that a little bit later, but
all right, yeah, I dig it.
Yeah.
I guess so. To set the stage, FLEXX Productions does big party tents all the way down to linens for your small wedding and everything in between.
Yeah. We're event rentals, 100% event rentals. The part of our industry is either tool rental or event rental, and we're 100% event rental. So tables, chairs, linens, dishes, china,
No
anything.
forklifts.
No forklifts.
You
Exactly.
own some forklifts, but you don't rent them out.
Yeah. That's exactly. That's a part of the tool rental part of our industry.
Yeah.
Best Event Rental is a great owner operator for small tool rental, Arapaho rentals up here also. So
and do they both do event rentals too?
Front Range Rental is a part of the Arapaho Rentals brand.
Okay.
They bought into that, however, 3 or 4 years ago, I think
Okay.
is what it was. And so they have a branch doing that. It was a great opportunity for them, and they do a great job at it.
So basically they compete with you, but you don't really compete with them in the tool and stuff.
Kinda. What is so
Friendly competition.
Yeah, what's so great about the rental industry is it's not cutthroat competition for some weird reason. We all bid on a project,
Right.
My biggest competitor up here is a great individual. He runs a great operation also, and we sit down 3 or 4 times a year and have a glass of wine together. And projects come up, and I bid against them, and they bid against us. And whoever gets the project gets it, and that's just kind of part of the deal. And I think that's what separates our industry so uniquely. Is the collaboration, as far as you get, where it's so not, other industries going to be so cutthroat,
Do you go as far as to even rent stuff from your competitors sometimes so you can put together a big event of
100%.
Steamboat or whatever?
Yeah, and vice versa, absolutely vice versa. I mean, we all can't have the resources on certain event weekends that are super maxed out. And so we'll subcontract back and forth between different operations depending on the needs.
So I guess, can you maybe describe a little bit about the span and breadth? Like, I know you said event rentals, but so there's linens, there's chairs, there's tables. There's heaters, there's generators, there's tents. How many tents can I rent?
Yeah, people will call up sometimes and they'll say, I need to rent your biggest tent. And I go, yeah, you don't want to do that. And the reason why is tents they're expandable by parts, and it's so how many linear parts do you have? But also I can bring in other parts from other partners if they want a ridiculous sized tent.
Right.
So, some of the larger projects we've set are 40 to 50,000 square feet of tent coverage.
Oh, dang.
For, 3,200 person conference, floored, air conditioned. I mean, these are portable buildings that we pretty much put up in certain scenarios.
Interesting.
And the industry's come really far from just quotes tents where you see like a circus tent with the center poles. That's still very common for like a wedding and whatnot.
Sure.
But I mean, 2-story glass walls, hard wall. I mean, the industry's just come so far in the past 20, 25 years for the products that are available that we can provide now. So we're one of the only operators in Colorado that have like glass wool and hard wool and stuff like that.
Kind of
we've gone
leading
into.
edge. Has that
Yeah.
been your brand along the way, or is
Yeah.
it becoming more your brand?
Oh boy, yeah. I talked to an owner up here today that as you get through these hiccups, right? I mean, FLEXX Productions, and have we talked about where like this company started?
No, not yet.
I
But
mean,
we'll zoom back there in a
we'll
bit,
zoom
or
back
we can
there?
go there right now if you want to.
I know. I mean,
It's your show.
yeah, it's your show. I'm just kind of working with.
No, well, let's talk about it. Because I think it's probably going to be relevant as we unfold. Because I know like COVID Nation was not good for the events industry and things like that, right? So
people gathering was kind of frowned upon,
Right.
for that first 8 months of that year. The FLEXX Productions, came along with a buddy many years ago, Kevin Quilling, and let's back up before that. Through high school and college, I did event rentals in the Denver market area.
okay,
So like Butler Rents was the largest operation at the time, and that's kind of where I got started.
you like
in
work
rentals.
for these?
Yeah, I
rental
worked.
companies.
I worked for the original owner that was there.
By the way, what was the Arapahoe Rentals? We've probably talked about this back in the past, but I financed the Windsor location for what became Arapahoe Rentals when I was a banker, like in 2021,
Is he?
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a great operation. I can't say enough good about Evan, who is their regional manager, and Lance, who ran the Windsor location.
Okay.
I think back then when you were talking.
Probably, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm too old for
Yeah.
that kind of memory. So you
So yeah, I mean,
kind of worked your way up in the industry, learned it.
Yeah, you got at high school, college, did that. My degrees in computer information systems. When I got out in the late '90s, the market was just flooded with IT guys, and so it was tough to get back into that. So I jumped back in the rental industry, helped manage a couple operations here in Fort Collins, and another commercial operation that was in the area. And then my old business partner, him and I jumped out because they just kind of went really corporate on us. And
Happens.
we were trying to.
A lot of businesses are started because the company
Yeah.
they work for become really annoying.
We just wanted to make them money, and it was challenging to do that when we were trying to tell them what to do. But we jumped out and started the operation in the garage. And
what did that look like? Like, what were those first? Like, how much cash did it take at first? And what did you just some linens and tables at first? And how do you?
We got a small
market?
business loan and some tables and chairs.
Okay.
And we subcontracted tents, right? From other operators to go and do that. But we had a lot of the connections because we've been doing it in the market for so long.
Right.
So.
Oh, sure. So they knew you.
Yeah, it's a very much relationship hospitality business, right? So, that's kind of how it started, and that was in 03-ish.
Okay.
And we just kind of grew the business little by little. I mean, you're talking pop-up tents at first, and 20 wides, and then just bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So
What was your first real location?
the first relocation was actually in the Glick Brothers Park where we're at now.
Is that right?
Yeah. We got 2,000 square feet from them in 03 as where we started, and then into 4,000 and 8,000, and then in 12, and we just expanded to right around just under 20,000 here this winter is what we grew into, which is fantastic because we really needed to expand.
Yeah. I remember you were packed in there
We were
like sardines
in there
last time I was there, which was a year ago over.
Yeah.
I wrote down some notes here just now and thinking that like the rental business is probably like math and customer service. Like things depreciate, you got to turn them a certain number of times per year to justify buying it, things like that. But then also you're only going to turn it enough if you have really good customer service, probably marketing as well. Like what would you add to that? Operations, you got to go set that stuff up too, right? Like set all those tents up, get all the generators working.
Our industry is so unique. I compare it to we're a 5-step business where I think any other industry sometimes is 3 steps, and we'll compare it to as like a lumber company. So you order lumber. I need some 2x6s, some 4x8 pieces of plywood.
Yep.
Order goes in, pulls it, puts it on a truck. They go deliver it. 3 steps. Boom, done. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. We are custom as far as like you're building an event on a venue, backyard, field, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That
You may or may not know what you actually need.
yeah, and so trying to educate the client on that piece of it, and then going in and actually building out the entire site is different. And so we go 3 steps, product, delivery out there, but then we have recovery and reprocess. We're more of a 5-step
Oh, sure.
type business is really what it is. So it
Yeah.
adds a lot of complexity to what we do in our type of visitors as a lumber delivery.
Right. Well, and I've rented stuff from FLEXX a number of times, and it's, for me, the customer, and probably almost all your customer, the recovery is an afterthought.
Yeah.
And so they don't even, their event happened. They don't really care about helping you much. You got to go in there and grab your shit
Yep.
and go.
But the chair and the glassware's got to be reprocessed and done correctly in our
Right.
facility. The tent material has to be reprocessed and it's white, right? So it gets dirty and,
Right,
it's
right.
got to be cleaned.
So
and
what's that look
processed.
like on those commercial tents? Do you bring it back and then hose it all down in
Yeah.
the parking lot or in the shed?
I used to hand scrub it, and I hated doing that because and you got to think about the time and the cost of labor
Sure.
to do that, lay it out a tarp and actually hand scrub it, which that's where you start in the industry. Once you can afford a machine that actually does that is a very expensive machine. You put the materials in the machine, it tumbles it
Like a dishwasher?
like a big
Or
big
a
washing
big washing
machine.
machine?
Yeah, like a big washing machine.
Really?
Yeah, 5 foot in diameter.
Oh, dang.
So I mean, it's a big piece of equipment, and you pull
Right.
the material out and you let it dry.
But you got to
and-
rent a bunch of tents first before you can buy a $12,000 washing machine for your tent washing, or more than 12, way more
It's
than 12.
these are investments that keep the business running but don't
Right.
make you money.
Right.
But it's part of running one of these businesses if you want to do it correctly.
Well, and if you, after every big event where you got 14 20 by 20 tents out and you've got a bunch of $30 an hour people out there scrubbing those tents, like, you're going to find some red ink pretty fast compared to the depreciation and interest on them.
Scale of economics.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you have to get that scale before you can make it make sense.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, that just comes over years. I mean, the first couple of years, we had a fax machine for $120 and it broke or something like that. And I was like, we can't spend $140 on a fax machine, I mean, it was that tight as far as running, expenses.
When was the first Peach Festival? The Fort Collins Peach Festival.
Gosh.
Because I think that's when we first met, because Tanis was the organizer of that for the Rotary Club, and
Yeah.
you were her guy for the event rental stuff.
Yeah. I don't recall the year because we already talked that we can't recall stuff
10,
because
11,
it's been
something?
so long ago. It was at Hughes, from
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
recall. It was at Hughes
Totally.
Stadium. It was a brand new event. They killed it,
Totally. Oh, yeah.
I remember going out there and going, holy cow.
Well, I
this
was
is-
food trucking at the time, right? Because I had my food trailer there. Maybe not that first year. I think I might have still been a banker that first year or two.
Yeah.
But we got acquainted at least because I was helping her with something.
I'd have to look back at photos because
Yeah,
it's been
probably 13,
so many
14,
years.
somewhere in there, 12, 13.
Yeah. So, many.
So
many
you were
years.
still like, tell me about like that first steps of growth. Like I imagine it was a ton of sweat equity at 1st. You hire a few friends for part-time jobs and then gets bigger from there.
Yeah, I mean, the first time we actually hired some employees, and I don't even remember what year it was, call it 06 or 07, and our payroll was like $3,200 for like 2 weeks. And I go, Kevin, we're not going to make it. There's no way we're going to make it. This is crazy. We can't pay this on payroll. I mean, the expense was so mind blowing to me.
Right.
And, you got to remember I had 1 or 2 business classes in college with a CIS degree.
Yeah.
And so I'm very self-taught within QuickBooks and P&Ls and balance sheets and all that stuff. I've just learned it over time. So I didn't have a formal background going like, here's how we do this and budgeted this and whatnot when we first started the business.
Cash
It was
is
kinda,
king.
Yeah, it was
And
kind
you
of trial
figured it
by
out a little
fire,
at a time.
and you figure it out as you go.
Tell me about Kevin. Like, what was his circumstance, and was he active in
Yeah.
running the business
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
or more
yeah.
of an investor?
Yep. No, Kevin we were 50-50 partners in the business when we started it. And, he'd been in the industry for quite many years before me, even come from the tool rental side.
I see.
And, we just met through a rental business was run up here.
Yeah.
And that business sold. And then that's when we got into the other corporate entity. And then we jumped out eventually.
Yeah. Okay.
Did it ourselves.
And then how long were you guys partners in FLEXX?
Yeah, till 2012.
Okay.
2012 he retired and sent him on his way with a little golden parachute.
Right.
And,
That's nice.
And, he moved down to Costa Rica.
That's a pretty cool relationship, right? Like, because probably you wouldn't have succeeded without all of his experience in some fashions and connections and stuff, but also without your energy and enthusiasm and eagerness to build something, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems to me that it was probably symbiotic.
Yeah. I mean, we both had, the different pieces of the aspects that the business needed at the time,
Okay.
is really what it was.
And what was his biggest contribution to that?
He was more operational. At first, he was kind of leading some of the charges, but I was more organized. I found out in the administrative part, I think, of the work, and then he was more kind of operational. Is where
so he was more the field guy.
Yeah,
and you were the office guy
more at the end of it.
while.
Organizing the teams and stuff like that.
Right.
So
Well, once you start, like, it's hard enough to point yourself in the right direction sometimes, but once you get a team that's 2-3 people, and then 5-10 people, and then 15-20 people, it's like it gets to be too much, for one, and that's where you have to really organize those teams.
Yeah.
What's FLEXX look like today? Like, you're growing into 20,000 square feet. Is that going to be more people too to operate that? Or
yeah, I mean it's so night and day. I mean, we're such a unorganized, no employee manual. Fly by the night operation. We did it correctly in many of the operational aspects.
Did the best you could.
Yeah, but I mean, the business is organized so differently now, and I'll contribute that to the people that have actually come through the operation over the years to help add a little bit on here and add a little bit on here, and then we jumped into EOS, as here. 4 years ago, I think,
Okay.
we tried to self-implement for a couple of years and as a train wreck. And then finally, we got implemented and we've been running really hard steady for the past 3 years.
Oh, really?
On EOS,
Okay.
very strict.
Okay.
Not EOS pure, but
Sure.
EOS pure to what we hold. We hold our weekly L10 meetings. And that was the thing before, as far as I call this organization, right? Hey, let's have a meeting, but it was never, we had a meeting and then it wasn't consistent.
Yeah.
And it didn't have an itinerary where EOS has allowed us to have that
Yep.
foundation.
That was one of the things I was really impressed with I think in the first full day implementation, kind of talking about the meeting pulse and the value of having that, like even with our local chapter meetings, you have a chapter meeting and then it's a month before you connect again. And so just even shortening that pulse between attention to the things that are important to get done can really make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Communication's king.
Yeah,
within
true,
your team.
True. What do you guys use for communication? And is there rental industry software that helps you do your CRM and invoices and estimates and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we 2008. So originally we started on spreadsheets, right?
Right.
And then we went to QuickBooks.
We only had 5 customers. So,
I mean, that's where you start. Spreadsheets, and then we went to QuickBooks, and then we went to Point of Rental, which is our industry, one of our industry softwares.
Mm-hmm.
They've been the leader in the industry for many years, and
still there.
And so we've been using that since 2008. So it does our inventory management, it does our AP, receivables, and pretty much if you have, just example, 100 tables, you got to allocate where those are.
Yeah.
On X dates, and that's what
Right.
this software does.
That seems like, were you overflowing on your own spreadsheet skills and stuff? And you're like, oh, shoot, we're going to have to get an upgrade here?
Well, when you start making some errors,
Right.
And you can't track it, that's when you need to change the systems. And that's what I recall kind of happened more than anything.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you got to, the amount of pieces and parts it takes to put together a tent, because they're all componentized, is extensive. And so if you allocate these parts out here to
Right.
each different project,
Right. Because
you-
they're probably modular, right? Like,
very much.
you pretty much carry the same kind of tent, and you can have the 10-foot wall or the 20-foot wall. Or
Yeah,
this or that.
there's some back and forth switching on the pieces and parts, but you've got to be organized in that part, because these crown pieces that are made in Germany, you cannot go down to Home Depot and buy another one.
Right.
You kind of have
It
what
just
you
won't
have.
work.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
you got to be organized in that aspect.
So how do you have your crews structured in terms of, I'm imagining you're slower in the winter and
Yep.
you kind of ramp up your staff
Yep.
in the summer. There's probably marketing and kind of operations and all the field services, and then kind of the admin function. Is that kind of the main
Yeah.
parts of your crew?
Actually, our administrative team, our what we call our client service team,
Yeah.
is actually very busy this time of year. Because
Oh,
they're
'cause
the
people are
ones
booking their events
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
the ones that they're touching base with our annuals, and if you're having a wedding in July, then they're getting that,
Yeah, it
talking
was
to
about
that
that time.
team.
I actually just inquired about the Next Level Summit in
Did
August.
you?
You know, it's
Yeah.
that time.
So I mean, you get it, and people used to be able to book 3 weeks, a month out sometimes. I mean, you can't do that anymore. You got to be on top of this thing 4 to 6 months ahead of the game, because there's only limited bandwidth all of these companies have now. And that's kind of what's changed post-COVID, within
Yeah,
that.
that's what I was wondering. Maybe
Yeah.
is the industry do you have fewer competitors now than you did 2019? Or are they just
No, I would say there's the same in this market, but
Okay.
I did see about 15% of the industry retire,
okay.
because they just didn't want to go through the rebuild process. And I knew after COVID, I had a buddy that actually, he dissolved his company that he'd been talking about getting rid of it for a couple years, and and in California, and he's like, Phil, what do I do? 2 or 3 months into this deal, we're all burning cash, just trying to survive. And I was like, Rob, you've been talking about getting rid of it forever. I was like, just do it, man. And he did, and he was so happy in the end that he'd moved on. But there was guys that were on the edge, close to retirement, and didn't know what to do, and that pushed them over. That was the catalyst. Because as I told Rob, I was like, it's going to take 3 years to dig out of this thing minimum, for the amount of cash it's going to take, and the processes. Because every rental operation had to eliminate at least half their core staff.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
to make the metrics work.
Well, I've been surprised a little bit that events didn't come back faster and bigger. Like, like the bar industry is forever changed, because if people go to the bar, they go home at 10 o'clock now and get on Tinder or something like that. There just isn't those kind of crowds. Some restaurants are still doing great, other ones aren't as good, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it just doesn't feel like and maybe it's just because I'm old, like the outdoor festivals and different things like that people gather under tents for.
That, yes, the festival part changed post-COVID, and the reason why, multiple factors, I think, a major one being cost.
Right.
Think about how much your groceries and rents and insurance has gone up in the past 3 to 4 years.
Right.
That we've had to do the same thing with our rental rates to accommodate, a folding chair I'd buy for, I think it was like $16. And I remember when I quoted them out in 2022, they wanted $37 a chair from $16. And it's re-leveled a little bit because container prices went crazy, et cetera. But the festival industry just has got crushed in the past couple of years because of the cost of operating. Not only event rentals on my side, porta potties, trash, security, off-duty PD, all this stuff that's required now, that you have to have these security things in place, for these events and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that's the challenging part, I think.
I just popped into Realities for Children. I guess it was a couple weeks ago now, and I do a prize for their luncheon donation kind of thing or whatever.
Nice.
But Craig was telling me about the challenge in still putting together the Realities ride and rally.
Yeah.
And just how it's almost like, are we going to be able to do this for another 5 years? It doesn't feel very solid that we can.
Yeah.
And part of that is because of the cost.
Yep.
The county's like, well, we got to hire this many police officers to shut down this many roads and this and that,
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know if we can do all that.
Yep. Yeah. That's a very true statement of what's just changed in the business
Yeah.
and the industry over years. So,
So it goes.
yeah. So it goes.
Yeah, it's math and customer service and some other things.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? I remember you were kind of pushing hard, trying to maybe expand elsewhere because you had a new landlord coming in and stuff. Are we okay to talk about that situation? Because you expanded where you are instead, but still have a plan to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Our complex, the previous landlord was there for many years, 30 plus. These guys own this complex, and they sold it a year and a half ago.
Okay.
The new landlords are great. They're just more corporate, not as small business as the previous landlord.
Sure.
So they have different ideas and concepts and whatnot. But we grew 4,000 square feet or whatever it was this wintertime in that area because we were maxed out, like you said,
Right.
in the facility. So we're very happy with the new layout at this point, and it's kind of given us more elbow room that we've been missing for the past couple of years. It'll create some
Did
efficiencies.
you go to the north further?
South, actually.
Okay, I wonder maybe wrap around that side instead.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make sure you get on the invite list, but we have an open house April 16th.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll write it down here for put it on my calendar.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that'd be like a grand reopening.
Yeah,
you never really closed, but
I did an open house. Oh my gosh, I want to say it was like 2018 was the last one or 19.
Okay.
But we didn't do them any, and it was. I think we had 130, 140 people there. It was and a lot of fun. But we were so packed in there, as you saw it. It's just there was no place to host this.
Right.
That's really what
there wasn't enough open space.
Yeah,
to
that's
have
really
people.
what. That's why it deterred us from actually doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, we're excited to show off the expansion of the space and just kind of what we have going on right now to the market. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be good.
Well, congratulations on making that happen.
Yeah.
Always interesting when a new landlord comes to town and you're not ready to move yet. So do you forecast like moving in a few years to a bigger facility?
Yep,
Still?
absolutely. The goal's always been for FLEXX to be in its own building, and I've never been shy about telling people that and where we're going to be. The operation acquired some land property on the north side of Fort Collins here a couple of years ago, and so we're kind of holding that strategically, waiting for the right time in the market. But I'm hoping in 2 to 3 years that we'll have the right opportunity to grow into our own place.
Well, the cool thing is you can grow. You couldn't get barely big enough to build a new building at 12,000 square feet. So growing to 20,000 square feet can help you grow during that 3 years to
absolutely
be able to build the building you actually want instead of kind of gimping into what's not quite what you wanted to build, really.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So
that's exciting. Where is your new space going to be? Do you talk about that? Is that public?
No, I mean, no, yeah, it's we'll be off the Mulberry and Timberline area, north of the old air park. Fort Collins.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the location. It was very strategic when I looked at the piece of land there. We have great access to I-25,
Totally.
and that's one thing where we're at right now, Harmony and Timberline. We've always had great access to I-25 to go north or south or wherever we need to be.
Yeah.
And Mulberry was one of those other strategic locations that I kind of identified.
Well, I'm guessing there's probably not many companies in Cheyenne or Laramie that can do the complexity of things that you can do. And as Wyoming grows, there's probably opportunity up there.
Absolutely.
You probably go up there now.
We go up. We do Frontier Days.
Oh.
That's something we've been doing the past 5 years, I think now. There was an operation doing it there, but they sold, and the new operation didn't really care to do it. So it's something we jumped in on, and they're an amazing client, and we have the right resources to set up these large scale tents.
So from a customer perspective, like I'm imagining there's some big clients, big companies that do stuff, and then also like a lot of event planners, like Tanis, our mutual friend, and others. Well, she's not that anymore. Don't call her for that. And then you have just a lot of individuals, right? Or a small business that wants to do a open house at their small business or whatever. So it's kind of this mix of regular customers and a lot of just private business to consumer.
Yep. Yeah. We have a lot of annual clients that do things from Frontier Days to other large events, and private owners that do festivals, and but all the way down to your just general bride. So
I didn't turn my ringer off.
Now you got to tell us who it is.
We'll see. It was Jill.
Oh,
Nope.
All right. Stop everything.
There's a picture.
All right. The boss is calling.
Here, Lenny sent some pictures of Hawaii. So I don't know. Did you meet Lenny? No, probably not. We have an exchange student, Jill and I do, from Finland.
Yeah. Oh, I met him at your Friendsgiving.
Yes, exactly. So Lenny's in Hawaii now for a week with the exchange class from Greenheart Exchange. Like whoever pushed the $800 extra button could go to Hawaii for a week.
Well, next time I'm going to request that we do this podcast from Hawaii.
If it's your dime, I'm ready. I'll bring my equipment.
Bring me a couple large clients and we can talk about this, Kurt. Anything's possible.
So you got a lot of steady Eddie, like recurring revenue when there's not like a pandemic going on. You can count on about half of your revenue maybe every year almost.
At least 3/4, is usually annually repeat for us.
Wow.
We're I mean, FLEXX is a 22-year staple in this community, so we're very connected with the university and the city and the county and all these entities that we have, you know, reputation and credibility with. Is really what it is. You got to think when you can send over a quote and a CAD and whatnot, and I go, here, Kurt, here's an $8,000 piece of paper.
Right.
That's a lot of trust. That you're saying that this organization is going to come on a Friday and execute this event for you and make sure it's done. That's one of the things that's the other, when I say 5 P's of the business, the challenge of our business, we're in a never fail business.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if a truck breaks down, an employee doesn't show up, weather incident. You cannot set Mrs. Jill's wedding up on Monday when her wedding's on Saturday.
Right.
We have got to be there on Friday or Thursday or whatever the range time frame is.
You got to have a little redundancy. Even if 2 people are sick with COVID, you got to still figure out how to get there.
We got to figure it out, and we always have. We've always executed everything we've done and adjusted when things do happen, which they will in this type of business over the years. I will say, you know, and to give credit where credit's due, my team is amazing, and that's why the success of the company is where it's at.
You're not afraid that much anymore.
No, yeah, I mean,
when's the last time you did a 16-hour day?
Oh, a 16-hour day?
Because I bet you got a lot of them in the past, at least.
Oh,
because of that never fail.
Yeah,
mandate.
16, 20 hours. You know, I mean, 20, 24. It depends on what needs to be done.
Right.
Yeah, you know, I'm lucky enough where I'm working on the business more now than directly in the business for many, many years.
Yeah, fair enough.
So,
I dig it. Is there anybody on the team right now that you'd like to give a shout out to, or is that risk leaving some people out?
No, I mean, my long standings right now are Kara. She's been with the organization here 12 years, and same with Maria, our soft goods manager, 11 years, I think.
Okay.
You know, soft goods, it's whole own department.
All the linens and different things like
and
that.
it's China, flatware. I mean, it's got its own department because it's so detailed, right? You know, I mean, how much barbecue have you spilled on one of my linens?
Right.
Yeah, you're laughing because you know what I'm
what I'm talking
about. You know, yeah. So my soft goods manager, I mean, she's the stain, you know, guru. You know, in our business. And
when I say I'm having a barbecue and I talk to somebody at your team, they'd be like, maybe you want the black linens instead of the white ones?
Yeah, you know,
if that fits for me.
Yeah, it's all right.
I'm just thinking the black probably covers the stains a little easier.
We can work it out. It's more of appearance, you know.
Fair enough. So you got those couple of gals been more than 10 years on the team.
Yeah. We run, you know, 22 to 24 of us in the off season, and then 40 plus in the on season.
Okay,
it's kind of our typical size right now for staff.
Is that like known to most of them that this is going to be a summer job kind of thing, or a summer plus a couple months kind of job?
Yep, we're transparent, you know, with the people that we do bring in each season, and just say, hey, we ramp down right around September, October, and here we got about 3 or 4 weeks left, so they can find work, you know, to other areas. And then if we have transition with any business,
sure,
and sometimes we'll have somebody that is say, hey, I'm going to retire from the organization after 3 or 4 years here, and we'll get one of those temporary people that come in the summer and be like, this person's fantastic, bring, you know, he or she into the organization full time. So that's kind of how we identify and grow within the team.
You mostly hire for your permanent team from those temp teams kind of thing. Hey, you don't have to
seasonal
do that. Not temp teams. It's seasonal teams.
Absolutely.
Well, and it has to be that way.
Yeah.
Because they're just, and what keeps you busy, I'm guessing it's more of those soft goods and no tents to speak of. Occasional tents, probably through the winter season. But
we do tenting in the wintertime.
Tents and heaters and all
100%. Yeah, we wall tents, heat them. You know, we were up in the mountains doing 18,000 square foot here a couple weeks ago.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. So, I mean, we do...
Like giant wedding or something like that?
A large corporate festival, you know, a music festival.
Okay.
And so, I mean, there's stuff that does happen in this market. It's just not as seldom. You know, in the wintertime, there's another cost to heating and walling and everything that comes along with that.
Yeah,
so,
that makes sense.
You know,
well, admittedly, I'm not as on the scene as I used to be 20 years ago, and
that makes 2 of us, Kurt.
It's hard.
I'm okay with that too.
Yeah, no, I relish a nice 90 minutes of Netflix at the end of the day and early bedtime.
I think it was Karen, my team, you know, here a couple of years ago when you know, I passed on a large gala that had been like the go-to I've been going to for a 1,000 plate dinner for
Okay.
many years, since 2006 is when
wow.
I started in this event.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. And a couple of years ago, and I was like, hey, I'm not going to go this year. And she's like, what do you mean you're not going to go this year? You've always gone to the thing. I go, hey, I'm passing the torch. It's time for you guys to kind of take this on more
Yeah.
and whatnot. And I go, I want to go watch my 90 minutes of Netflix like Kurt does.
Early bedtime.
Yeah. So, things change in life over time.
I dig it. What would you say some of your like key strengths as an owner, or maybe what you suspect some of your
Yeah.
longtime employees might say, or your past local think tank fellow members, or things like that?
Yeah. What EOS has really done for me is help me put a name on what I do and what I am in the organization.
Yeah.
EOS will say I'm a visionary. With in the DIS test profile, Myers-Briggs PI, I 100% test as a visionary within in businesses, and to maybe let your audience know a little bit more about that. It's I have the big ideas. I can speak 10 years down the road and have these great ideas and pitch them to my team. And here's 10 great things I think we should do, guys.
Right.
My integrators / operational people will pick the crap out of those things and go, Phil, great idea. But,
We have nowhere near the
operationally,
resources for that
yeah,
right now.
we can't build the tent on top of the house. It's going to look cool, but we can't anchor it into the roof, and so they'll bring me back down to reality on that stuff. But usually 1 out of 10 of my ideas will stick, and it'll be a really good idea. And that's what good visionaries are really about within operations.
Fair enough.
So
And how does that like really impact your business? Is it like choosing the right kinds of tents and materials? Is it like advertising in the right places? Like how does that visionary kind of really?
yeah. I mean, that's a good question. I would say from a product aspect, yeah, I've been able to predict that a little bit and say, hey, here's something new. Let's try this, and it's different than anything else that's happening in the market. Some of it's trendy though.
Yeah, I was going to say, just like Denver started adopting trends, and then it trickles
the-
up to Fort Collins.
The
kind of
trends
stuff.
come in from the coastlines, actually, east and west
Yeah,
coast.
yeah.
That's where a trend comes from. I'll use an example: chocolate fountain.
Sure.
Chocolate fountain. Do you remember? I mean, how popular they
Oh
were
yeah.
10 to 15
I'm sure
years
I could
ago.
buy a chocolate fountain used right now, or for
Cheap,
a
yeah,
nickel, yeah.
yeah. And so everybody's like, chocolate fountains, and I looked at it and I was like, man, it's such a trend, and it's a hard trend because of the temperamentalness of them.
Yeah.
And I never got into them, and so I've avoided some of those trends that I
Okay.
see coming in and out of the industry just by kind of being
Did you
able
find
to
somewhere that
pick it
somebody
up.
could rent a chocolate fountain if they
Yeah.
really wanted one?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's people who recommended it up here, or we'd cross rent it or
Sure.
something like that, but it's something I never got into.
Fair enough.
These weird things. So yeah, the trends come in from the coastlines usually, but yeah, I try to be as visionary and predict some of the products that'll make sense in this marketplace. I mean, we're not in LA, we're in Fort Collins, Colorado, and there is a realism of what the practicality of what this market not
Sure.
only
Yeah.
wants to afford, but also what makes sense here.
Yeah,
too.
we've only got like a 1 or 2 billionaires, or maybe
Yeah.
a few,
Yeah.
like we don't have and we don't have big companies that can drop that kind of dollars on some of the things.
Yeah, it depends on what the thing is. I mean, there's only so many that can with these large structure tents that we put glass wall on.
Right.
And it literally turns it into a building, and people are like, what do you mean glass wall? Like, these are actual 13-foot high glass walls. It turns the actual tent into a building.
That's
It
so
looks
cool.
Really, really impressive.
I wish we had some pictures of that.
I have some pictures that I'm happy to share.
We'll catch up to it later.
So,
We got
sounds
a
good.
talk going
Yeah,
on right now.
yeah.
So I guess from you mentioned you didn't really have any significant business acumen in the beginning. Like, was it just kind of self-studied? Did you have CPAs and accountants, business peers? Like, where did you really build your skill set in terms of the financial management element?
Hard hustle and just honestly figuring a lot out on my own.
Yeah.
I did not, and I encourage people, especially in the industry now, to figure and find a mentor, or anybody who's getting into business. And that's something I really just didn't know about, or wasn't there in the early 2000s, right?
Sure.
The internet was what the internet was then.
Yeah.
And the communications just weren't there as they are now, where you can reach out to somebody. That's where I participated a couple years in our industry association, which is called American Rental Association, and they have a mentor-mentee program, and I've actually been a mentor to a couple different operations out there to just kind of coach and guide them and try to give them some guidance that I never had, but it was a lot of just hard grind and figuring it out on my own. And I think after the ninth year, I was like, this business, this can't be right, failing in the numbers, and it just didn't make sense of where things should be. And I was like, man, I've done it for 9 years, so obviously I'm doing something right.
Right.
And that was kind of the click and the realization as in everything's going to
kind of corner now.
Kind of be okay here, and you think about the typical business lasts 5 years or less or whatever,
right?
And that kind of thing.
And did you took out a little bit of debt at the beginning? Did you use bank loans and debt to grow along the way, or did you mostly acquire your additional assets with cash over time, or both?
Both.
Okay.
I remember the first loan. I'd have to try to figure this out of where we found this financing company, but I know it was like, I don't want to say shark loan, but the interest rates were crazy on this stuff because we didn't have any credit or credibility. As a 2+ year old business. And I remember we financed some tables and chairs on it. But eventually, we were able to have more of that, prove a little bit of a balance sheet, and show that to some banks. And that's primarily where we would do some funding.
Gotcha. Wouldn't make a big capital acquisition and then so it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're a good client for a bank, frankly, it seems like, because you always are getting new stuff. You don't want to sit with $500,000 on your balance sheet so you can acquire a bunch of tables or whatever.
Banks like us because we have assets versus a catering operation.
Right.
They usually have more clientele base.
Yeah, but, what we loan against,
Yeah, exactly.
If you've got a need as a caterer for debt, it means you haven't been running an unprofitable operation usually.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd be okay to have a quick break resettle and come back for the next segments.
Sure.
All right.
Sounds good. All right, take a break.
This episode is sponsored by Loco Think Tank. Loco Think Tank provides peer collaboration for business owners. We build smart, safe places to help business leaders navigate every stage of the business journey, and we love what we do and who we do it with. Our model features give-back-minded business veterans in the role of Loco facilitators, and we're always looking for abundance-minded individuals to add to our membership, facilitator team, Loco community, or to feature on this podcast. Listeners of this podcast who go on to become members of Loco Think Tank get their 6th month of membership for free. Just mention the Loco Experience podcast on your application. To learn more, visit our website at locothinktank.com. That's LOCO thinktank.com.
I want to hear about where little Phil came from. So let's jump in the time machine.
You want to hear where the stork came from, huh?
7 years old. Or we can hear about the stork too.
Oh my gosh! Actually, I'll tell the stork from my parents. They said I was so ambitious to get into the world. They had to pull over on the way to the hospital, so I was born in the car.
Okay.
So I was eager, I guess.
I guess so, yeah.
So that's the story that my parents.
Were you here locally in Colorado?
Denver.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that you had worked in some of the rental stores down there and stuff.
Yeah. So
what was the circumstance? So like, what kind of a family did you be born into?
Yeah, I mean, middle class family. Parents are dad's from Nebraska area, it's a very small town, 150 people.
Okay.
Catholic.
That's where I come from.
Yeah, and then my mom's side's from Quincy, Illinois. So it's
is that a suburb of Chicago kind of?
No, southern, right against the Missouri border.
Okay, so also kind of small town.
Yeah, very
style.
small. Yeah, very small town down there. Farmers, very rural area. So, so 7. What was I doing when I was 7? I don't even know.
You have brothers, sisters?
I have an older sister.
Okay.
Yep.
And how old was she?
Couple years older than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she lives in the Denver area and does software consulting work within the healthcare industry.
What would 9-year-old? What's her name? Nicole, what would 9-year-old Nicole have said about 7-year-old Phil?
Oh man, she loved to beat
You were
up
like a
on me
first
like an
grade-
older
was she?
sister. Oh yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
okay.
Older sister liked to beat on younger brother. I mean that's kind of how it happened. And then when I got bigger, eventually she just developed new techniques. That's kind of what it was.
More psychological techniques instead of physical.
Absolutely. So I mean that's a brother sister relationship.
And you said middle class family. Were your folks both employed, or was your mama?
So my dad, entrepreneur, has always had his own business. Sales, kind of is what he did for,
For himself and for others.
yeah,
sometimes,
for him himself. He kind of repped in between large pumps for, ski resorts to water plants to stuff like that.
Okay,
and
so
a
kind
lot of that stuff.
A lot of bigger equipment sales kind of thing.
Yep.
Stuff.
So he had a business, and I remember going down to his business, and he was in maybe 3,000 or 4,000 square feet and stuff
Gotcha.
being there as a kid. And then my mom was a CPA by trade.
Okay.
So
Should have had her spend more time with you on the accounting
number
stuff
aspects.
before,
I know.
before you get out there.
Yeah, right. Totally. So
As you developed, were you sporty? Were you smart? Were you a nerd? Were you
we were smart kids. I hung out with some pretty smart other buddies in the neighborhood. One is now he's an aerospace engineer, electrical aerospace engineer.
Very good.
And so myself and my buddy, we would build some very cool, complex rockets to all sorts of various stuff. So
Some
I'd
awesome
say we're a
tree
little-
houses.
Yeah, I
whatnot.
see we're a little more nerdy, but then also adventurous.
Yeah.
Active. Nothing scared us. Take bike rides anywhere, and that genre of
That was still the
Yeah.
thing even in Denver. The city didn't lose that because
Yeah. We were a little suburbish on the east side. There is kind of where we were, but
Okay.
once the night lights came on, you go home and you hide the blood on your shirt
elbow.
or learn to clean it out and drink hose out of the water, and that's the generation that we grew up in.
Sure. And then did you go to college then after high school, or
Yeah,
you
up
did?
here in Fort Collins.
Okay,
Computer information systems.
Okay, yeah, you
Yep.
mentioned that.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so what did that choice come from? Was it kind of like
Yeah.
CSU's right there? It's
Yeah, I know. I mean, computers were always the thing we played with in
Sure.
high school.
It was
and
cutting
college
edge at
and-
the time,
Yeah,
right?
and in
Like-
grade school, and installing things on networks of the school computers that they didn't have us locked out of yet, and just being curious,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
and
yeah.
figuring things out, at that time.
I find it interesting that when we were about that age, and I think I'm a little bit older if I recall, or a fair bit older, but the adults, the teachers and stuff were like, hey, you should study these computer things because they're going to be really important in the future, right? And now with the AI thing and stuff, it feels like all the young people, the 15 to 24-year-olds are like, hey, adults, we should all study this AI stuff a little more because it's going to be really, it feels like it's kind of flipped the script a little bit compared to what we experienced with that new technology environment back then.
It's just a different level.
Yeah,
I mean, if you
yeah.
think about the technology for our parents and what was out there, it was cutting edge at the time.
Right.
And I think as a kid, I was always like, why are my parents understanding and into this stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's just as you get older, you don't really care as much in a certain way or don't
yeah.
look backwards and you're I'm aware of it and studying AI, but when you have the time, I think as a kid too,
Yeah.
you can be so immersed in it
Yeah.
and really
Yeah.
On top of it.
That makes
Do you
sense
know
to
all
me.
the settings on your phone, Kurt?
No,
Yeah.
I was just I actually just earlier today, I told Alma, I was like, man, I pushed the help polish this button on Google Gmail before I sent an email to my facilitators. And it was like, it was so much better than the email I wrote before that. But
Yep. Yeah.
damn it, I'm sending the one I wrote by myself
and-
because I can do it.
And guess what? They've been doing that for 24 months now.
Oh
compared to
yeah,
us.
exactly.
know.
So
Yeah.
so it goes. And so yeah, we kind of circled back to getting back into the rental industry after college. And any regrets? If you could have been a $150,000 a year computer guy for the last 20 years, would you swap that
No,
out?
I mean,
Or
everything
starting then?
Everything happens for a reason. I mean, you get it all plotted out at some point, you think, and you're like, all right, I'm going to do this and whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no idea that the market was going to be flooded with IT guys the way it was, even with a
Yeah,
college
yeah.
degree and jumping back into rental. And it just kind of led to what it did.
So it goes. Do you think it could be a good employee now, after 20 years or something?
I've thought about that a little bit, and I'm like, oh man, what if I did something else and I work for somebody else?
Like if somebody offered you too much money for your business tomorrow, would you get a job? Well, you'd probably just.
I think it. No, I mean, I'd have to do.
Hang out with your former business partner.
Yeah, I'd have to do something.
Right.
I'd be bored. Visionaries and entrepreneurs you can't sit around. I'd make Stacy crazy.
You might not get a job, but you do some stuff.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I think that would be challenging. After working for myself for so many years and having to report and accountability. But I think in a certain capacity, if I had the right role, then sure, maybe I could do something.
You might be better at it now after a few years of EOS than you would have been before that.
Sure.
Because I suspect if you're like me and I'm just starting to implement EOS, but like I'm a little better at managing myself even already than I was without that element of kind of tracking and accountability for myself.
Yeah. Discipline and habits, as you know, is really totally what it's making. I mean, having weekly L10 meetings is a habit.
Yeah.
And so when you can instill these good habits, right, in your life, then you have good things.
Well, you show up once or twice and you're like, sorry, I didn't do any of my homework before coming to this meeting. Then you like kick your own ass, so you do that better next time.
You shamed yourself, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When I had Jennifer Lewis on, who I know you've worked with a little bit in the EOS realm, she asked me, why don't you implement EOS, Kurt? And I was like, well, because you're going to make me do a bunch of hard things that I'm not sure I want to do.
Yeah. You're going to hold me accountable? I don't want to be accountable.
Right. And I don't even really want to hold myself to that. But, 9 months later, here we are.
Then what you do is you design the world around that. You have other people that can help with those things that you don't like, which EOS will show those four boxes as in, what do you like? You really enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's part of what, I have a executive assistant that spends maybe 5 hours a week kind of making sure I don't miss stuff and occasionally setting up appointments for me and things like that. And that's just worth it for me.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Better than shaming myself all the time. You've heard that line before, don't should on yourself.
It's, again, it's about what you design.
There's either do or do not do, but don't should all the time.
Yep, absolutely.
So let's jump into the mandatory segments. Yes.
Hi, this is Clint Jasperson, Managing Partner at Purpose Driven Wealth. We believe financial clarity leads to a life of contentment and purpose. Our mission is to guide clients through the complexities of wealth management, retirement planning, and legacy using a values-driven, stewardship-based approach focused on provision, contentment, and enjoyment. With more than a century of expertise through Thrivent, we offer tailored strategies to help individuals and families achieve their goals and embrace generosity. Whether you're navigating a life or business transition or planning for the future, we're here to partner with you every step of the way. To learn more about Purpose-Driven Wealth, call 970-330-7411.
The faith, family, politics.
I remember you mentioned that.
Yeah. I'm sure you're excited about it. We've had some fun political conversations, although we're, I wouldn't say we're that far apart, but we're definitely on a different bandwidth, I suppose. I'm a very libertarian kind of guy, and I think you've got some of those notions, but maybe more on the progressive end of the libertarian element. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah. I'm
a little more on the conservative end of the libertarian spectrum.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in the middle. I'm independent, is where I land in the spectrum there. Our core values as a company are, accountability, do the right thing, and humility. So I try to instill the same thing. That's something we instill not only in our employees, but also in our clients.
Yeah.
If we have a client that's not working within those core values, I'm not hesitant to move on and say, we're just not the right solution for you guys.
Fair enough.
And so I look the same thing within my beliefs also,
How would you say Trumpy's doing the first week and a half?
I was wondering when you were going to just like.
Well, it's right. It's fresh.
It is
current,
very
current
fresh.
Events,
very fresh.
And it's pretty crazy. Like, we haven't
seen
seen anything as active
Yeah.
as this. But the libertarian man says like, well, it's about fucking time somebody acted like this and cut a bunch of shit and offered early resignations.
Yeah, that's a hard ground to dance here
Yeah,
because as a business owner, typically I'm pretty Republican, right? And I want to do better for businesses and have those things.
Less regulation. Things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, exactly. Colorado's become
Very
so
difficult.
difficult and regulated to operate in, and people go, well, why does it cost so much to rent a tent? The compliance that I have to have for my business and the employees
Right.
is insane.
Sorry, but the Family and Medical Leave Act compliance costs me $24 out of your $200 tent rental.
I just switched to a new HR firm, which is fantastic, and we went through an onboarding audit with them. They had 200 questions. It took over 2.5 hours to go through this audit with them and everything compliance-wise that we were doing. I mean, you should see this Excel list. And I sat here and I go, didn't Colorado be 20 plus years ago? I mean, it was such a easy right to work state. And I always was like with employees, and I was like, hey, I just have that conversation. Hey, is this working out for you still? And we've talked about this a couple times, and you're not performing in this area. And you're like, yeah, I don't think my passion's with it anymore. And I would always be like, hey, maybe it's time you look for something else. I want the best for both of us.
Yeah.
And we had to part ways, and that was it. There's so much more crazy complexity around running that now, which creates cost.
Right.
And everybody goes, why is it so expensive to live here in this state or area? So that is the one hard part of going to the left side there. To the right side, I mean, you of course I want better operations for businesses and in those areas. So Trump's an individual that's
I just looked. Letterman County went 57% Harris and 40% Trump. So
is it
definitely bucked the kind of national trend there.
Yeah. I mean, this is a very blue area for kind of many years now.
Yeah.
So I in the end, there should always be balance in the middle. Is kind of my philosophy and opinion on it.
Yeah.
You get too far one direction or the other, it creates turmoil for everybody.
There should be like, and maybe there is polling data that's like, it's actually 19% Harris and 31% Trump and like 45% not too excited about neither.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. So, I think a lot of people, he's pretty cutthroat and will make these decisions and signs all these executive orders.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard from definitely other construction and farmer owners right now that are very concerned about deportations. I mean,
yeah, how could you not be?
I mean, and heard about things that are transpiring right now, and this country. I mean, you got to think that these farmers, some of them have half their workforce that are harvesting the crops and everything right now. So what is that going to do to our food costs, let alone availability?
Yeah.
It's a concerning thing, I think, for us as a country, and what is going to be the catalyst in the next month or two that either changes that or one way or the other.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting. My hope is that the whole big we're getting rid of everybody kind of thing is a bunch of bluster, and they really take action on the actual criminal record people, or the people we just don't even know who they are.
Yeah,
and, but I've had some of that conversation with Alma, and of course she's from Mexican background and community, and she knows more than a dozen people that she's like, I'm a little nervous that somebody's going to come and grab them, and that's what kind of a way to live is that?
Terrible.
Especially if you were here going back to 2019 or 2018 or something, you've been working on your green card, you're doing these things, and now you're like, am I going to be a innocent bystander to this sweep?
95% of the people that are here are usually here for the right reason. They want to work, make some money, give money to their family, and just and have that dream lifestyle that any American wants to have.
Yeah.
And they just maybe haven't gone through the process to get there with it. But there's a lot of jobs out there. From farming to construction, that not a lot of Americans are doing, and I think that should be a concern for this country in general.
Yeah, no, I think there should be consensus among both Republicans and Democrats, honestly, that we need to actually fix immigration so that we can import more people, and we need to have the right kinds of standards and screening and perhaps a wall too, so that we can tell the difference. Because, like, I hate to be a tinfoil hat guy, but how many like potentially bad Chinese or Arab people came across the border the last few years?
Yeah.
Like, it could be hundreds of thousands for all we know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Like, what would that do if there was an actual conflict and they were moles in our society?
Okay, tinfoil hat. I mean, but I don't know.
They might be.
Yeah.
Like, if you were China, wouldn't you try to send a bunch of young recruits over to wreck the demon?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know because I've never dug down in that area and or been educated on it.
Yeah.
So we could run through any scenario like that, as in.
But I agree with you.
Yeah.
Like, the labor force is so important that if we literally bounce, a significant portion
Yeah,
of
if we bounce half the workers
population.
out here, there's going to be a food issue, let
Yeah.
alone construction issue, let alone et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope the talk and everything that's kind of transpiring right now in the next month or two,
the bluster kind of slows down
yeah,
and
creates some
moderates the action a little
yeah,
bit.
some balance. Is really what's needed. It's been out of balance in a couple different ways.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah.
Should we talk about abortion or any of those other political hot topics?
I mean,
No, I'm teasing you.
I
We can
think
move
you and
on.
I are the least qualified to talk about something like that.
My blog that's going to come out tomorrow said basically one of the reasons that Harris lost the election is because she didn't really have a focus, a point. It was kind of like, things are pretty good, continue Joe's legacy, protect women's rights, and Orange Man bad.
Yeah.
And that ultimately she wasn't successful because she didn't kind of get to the point of what's going to be better with you. And so I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's a complicated world, and the unintended consequences of any action are significant. I hope we get the hell out of. I hope Russia and Ukraine comes to terms that are disappointing to both of them soon, and we can quit worrying about World War III.
Yeah, war's bad overall, as we all know.
Yeah.
And the ancillary people that are affected within those communities and children and everybody that's affected something like that will carry that for multi-generations in their lives.
For sure.
And that is incredibly sad. We are so isolated here in Fort Collins, Colorado, with this great blessed community that we live in. And I very much tell myself that.
Dang, I forgot. I usually, we got to the politics section, I usually offer a homegrown joint to consume during the show. Is that of interest to you? We haven't really talked about that before.
Yeah, I'm good with my
white wine is fine.
My grapes here
White
tonight.
wine and charcuterie.
Thank you for the hospitality,
Sure.
as always.
It actually, my percentage of acceptance has increased from like 7% to like 12% since I've been saying it was my own homegrown.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
I grew like one big plant, and it grew like, I don't know, quarter pound, half pound, or something, like a ton this year.
Man, I remember when
But giving away like crazy.
Pot became legal or medically legal in Colorado,
Yeah.
and at that point I was like, it's over. It's going to be here and it's going to be legalized and whatnot. I knew that was the first test step for doing it, and one of the reasons it's so expensive to operate a business here is because you have to have warehouse space to grow this marijuana, and it took up a lot of the warehouse space in Colorado.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, rents were $4 to $6 a square foot, and they doubled plus in Colorado because it's a lot more lucrative to have a marijuana operation growing in a warehouse.
Huh.
Yeah, fun little back from years
yeah.
ago.
How many total square foot do you suppose they grow in now?
Oh, I'm
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, I mean, I'm depending on the size of the operation.
At least for a season, there was a warehouse shortage.
Is
and it popped the price.
is my guess. Yeah, so.
What would you say, as a mostly non-consumer or perhaps fully non-consumer, you think weed has been good or bad for Colorado, or neutral?
Probably neutral. I'm not educated enough on the tax, revenues.
Yeah,
and
how
where,
much good has happened
and
from
yeah,
it. Yeah,
where those go. I mean, that was enacted to where a lot those
that was
funds
the
were
theory, right?
to go into the
The
educational
kids will
systems.
be smarter if we just allow
and
the weed.
I think it was a good thing from the aspect of it was already here before then.
Right.
To go ahead and might as well regulate it and tax it. to make it safer. I don't think that was a bad thing, honestly.
Yeah.
But I hopefully the tax revenue has done some good. I don't know. Have never dug into where that's done, but I mean,
You don't see the societal collapse that some see. Or maybe that's why we voted 57% for Harris.
no, I mean,
just
you know,
teasing
no,
people
Pot-
that
here's
hate me already.
here's the thing that when pot became legal here in Colorado, the people that always smoked still smoked, and the people that
And
didn't
almost
smoke
nobody else.
didn't smoke, and it really didn't change anything other than the fact that they could go down
100%.
a store and buy it, you know. So I didn't really see a major change with anything there. In my
That's so
opinion.
well observed.
Yeah,
That's
you know.
exactly the echo of my experience.
Yeah, so.
There was a few people that were like, "Ooh, I'm going to try it," and then they didn't. You know, people would try edibles or something like that.
Sure.
They're like, "Nah, whatever."
Yeah.
Religion or family would you prefer? Because we do faith family politics.
Well, faith, family politics.
Yeah, so family now.
yeah, sure.
Well, we talked about politics first. We went backwards already because I wanted to talk about Trump with you, get you in the hot seat. Family. So we talked about your mom, your dad, a little bit, your sister.
Yep.
Are you still in a relationship? I
Yeah.
assume.
Yeah.
Long-term relationship.
Yep. Yeah, long-term relationship. My spouse, partner Stacy, and we've been together 12, going on 13 years right now.
Okay.
Yep. So we met through the events industry. She was working for SneaGrab corporate sports authority,
Okay.
and doing the SneaGrab tents from Colorado to Montana to Alaska.
Okay.
And so that was happening in Fort Collins.
Sure,
And
yeah.
I kind of hunted her down to get the business, and she blew me off for like 6 months,
Okay.
to get the business. And I just kind of, did that, but we ended up doing a couple dates. She played very tough to get. I will say that. And, so I was very lucky to just kind of be able to hang out with her and get to know her.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
And then how long? You said 13 years together, exclusive.
Yep.
You're probably edging out of. Does she have children?
No kids.
You don't have kids
Yeah.
either.
Yeah. No kids.
Did you guys think about it?
That's one thing when we got together. And I think what you usually do in the first part of a relationship,
Right.
you talk about kids, and we're both like, yeah, we're
Not so
okay,
much.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's how that's one of the reasons we got along, is we both kind of always had that same philosophy together, and so it's no kids, dog.
So, family question now, like, if all of a sudden by some whatever she got pregnant, like, would you be excited to have a child together?
No, we're old enough. We're
You'd
past.
be terrified.
We're past that, Kurt.
Yeah, fair enough.
we're past that in life. So
Yeah, I wonder what I would do. Like, Jill's 44, I'm 50, right? Like, so we're past that too.
yeah.
And like, I don't know what we would do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're great. We are dog parents, and
One dog.
2 dogs. This will come up within some of the philosophy. We had one of the dogs pass in the past couple of weeks,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and thank you. And
So now one dog.
yeah, 1 dog.
Okay.
So,
Let's talk about the departed dog first.
oh my God,
Just
we probably should not bring that up.
well, you might cry, but that's okay. There's tissues underneath the table right here.
Yeah. So the backstory on these dogs, we travel. That's
Okay.
one thing that Stacey and I like to do, is travel, usually once a year. Puerto Rico has been one of our favorites. We've been down there 4 or 5 times.
Okay.
And we went to breakfast at this restaurant, and they had posted on their Facebook page. We'd actually both come with dogs from our previous relationship.
Okay.
So we both had dogs, and they all passed within a year. It was absolutely terrible.
Oh, wow.
They were just they got old
Yeah,
and whatnot. It was terrible. And but we were in Puerto Rico, and this restaurant posted one of the dogs, and so we went to breakfast, and then I was like, no, we're not gonna do it. And I surprised her, and I took her to the rescue, and that dog was gone. It was a Shar-Pei.
Oh, in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, in Puerto Rico. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it was a Shar-Pei, kind of pity little dog and whatnot.
Yeah.
The dog wasn't there. We met another dog, and she's like, "Oh, the dog will be back in 2 days. Her brother got adopted, etc." We were back like 2 days later. She's there. The brother didn't get adopted. And they're 12 weeks old, and they're just like glued to each other, pulling on each other in the room, and they just love each other to death.
So has that been the
And,
2?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so anyways,
Oh, wow.
and I asked Stacey, I go, which dog do you want to choose to bring home? And I already knew I was screwed at that, at that point. And she goes, yeah, you could stay here. They're both coming with. The rescue lady dropped the I was like, we don't leave for 3 days. And she's like, I'll meet you at the airport 3 hours away. Dropped them in our arms at the airport at 8 o'clock in the morning, stood back, took a picture, which I'll share with you. And we had these 2 dogs that we got on an airplane, and all of a sudden we're dog parents. Brought them back. So that's 2018. And we just spent so much time with these dogs. They're our kids.
Yeah.
And so, the one dog, Raina, our brown Shar-Pei, a couple weeks ago, she just had a disc bulge suddenly, and it happened so quick. Monday acting weird, Tuesday at the vet, Wednesday at CSU, back at CSU at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we had to say goodbye on Thursday night. It was terrible.
Wow.
So.
Just intense pain.
Yeah,
and,
yeah, she was in intense pain.
You can spend $12,000 to maybe have a chance to alleviate.
There is no cost you can put on one of your best friends and your kid.
That's true.
And so it was more the fact that we did everything we could, and she was in so much pain, and we just had to let her go. It was terrible. So,
sorry.
and that's one of the things when you sign up for these animals, they will give you the most joy and love. And they're incredible in so many ways.
How's your other dog doing with their absence?
Yeah, Fausto. I mean, they're literally brother and sister.
Yeah.
So
I imagine the bond is super crazy.
Incredibly intense. Yeah. So, he's you can tell things are different. You know.
Yeah.
So,
we had brother and sister cats, Bootsy that we still have, and then the King of Laporte. His name was Barley, and he got hit by a car.
Oh my God!
Like a week after our most previous exchange student moved in, and I wasn't around. I was out of pocket for a couple hours, so he carried the cat to the backyard and stuff. And man, the sister cat was a mess for a while.
Yeah.
She's still not the same, honestly.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. When you have a bond like that, with a animal sibling. It's a thing for everybody. But she was going to turn 7 this last week, so it was so sudden and whatnot. Yeah, and when we signed up for this, we said, "Cool, we got 12, 14 years with these animals," and that was the traumatic part, shocking part of it. So
I usually ask a one-word description of the kids. Would you like to give a one word in remembrance of Rain, or is that not enough words?
Man, spirited.
Okay.
Yeah. She was the alpha of the house.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. And Fausto is the...
Fausto, yes. Fausto, yeah, her brother.
And
he's
does he feel lost without somebody telling him what to do all the time now?
Yeah, I mean, she was the one we're going, and he would follow with. Yeah. I mean, he's figuring it out, and we're figuring it out as a family.
Yeah.
And we're making it work, and it's about adjusting. As humans, we're 70% habit every day. You get up, you brush your teeth the same way the other day, you shower the same way.
Yeah.
There's all these habits that we had together as a family and with the dogs, and having to readjust that has been probably the most challenging part. But as animals, we adapt, and you got to figure out what the next new normal is.
Yeah.
That's what's kind of transpiring right now.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Do you have a one word for Fausto too that you would share?
Oh, Fausto is man, he is sensitive. Yeah, he's a sensitive dog. I'm not sure
Does he come snuggle with you guys in the morning after?
Yeah,
his
I mean
sister's
they
gone?
were both
did.
Yeah, I mean these dogs broke me down. I when if we want to go back to when I was 14, right? My parents had sent me back to the farm on Illinois. I go back for 2 months as a kid in the summer and learn mechanics and putting farm equipment and doing all that stuff. So I kind of grew up saying, dogs sleep
tools.
outside. Yeah, they sleep outside. They're part of the farm, right? And so this brown little Raina dog broke me down over a 6-month period in our house, because when we brought him home, I go, nope.
You were still that kind of guy.
Yeah, here's a gate. The dog lives downstairs. It's in these room is a part of the house that was a negotiation that Stacy and I had. She had a thing. She would open the gate up, and she'd walk up to the mid level and just sit on the rug right there and stare at me. And then move a foot at a time over a 6-month period. This dog systematically broke my emotions down over time. It was terrible, And then next thing you know, they're on the couch, they're on the beds, and they're one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry for your loss. That's Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a tough thing to
Thanks.
go through, and that I was just reflecting. So usually I get up and work for 90 minutes or something, and then I take a shower, and then I climb back in bed, and Jill gets up, and part of that whole process is Tucker comes in and says hi for like 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
He's an old grumpy dude at this point now. He's not the snuggler he once was, but he generally always comes in every morning and kind of, licks Jill's nose a couple times, and
And that habit, that companionship that you have is just one of the golden things in life.
yeah,
Is really what that is.
yeah, fill it with somebody a little bit.
Yeah.
Something, some dog, somebody. Okay. Oh, we haven't talked about faith yet.
Sure.
Yeah, you mentioned along the journey that you came from a
Yeah.
Catholic background family.
Yeah, so my dad's side was Catholic, and then my mom's side was Christian. In Illinois, so I kind of had a blended thing. But I was raised, Christian.
Okay.
And then, as I got out on my own, I did a little bit of that, but I kind of developed just my own philosophy of Phil being, and not really attending any sort of denomination or any.
Never really
any-
revolted against your
Yeah,
background, just
yeah,
never really engaged either.
I mean, do the right thing to right people and all that.
Well, I mean, I heard it in your values, the humility, and certainly
Yeah.
your values have been impacted from that background, but no, you don't feel an absence or a desire to engage more in that
No,
part of your world.
no, it's I've just kind of got my own complacency, as
My
I'll
habits
say.
are established
Yeah,
there,
I
and-
mean, the if you look at the I mean, one of the things I'm interested a lot more as you get older is like health, and
Sure.
and food and all that stuff. And if you've ever watched the Blue Zone show on Netflix or
I
any of
haven't
that
yet,
stuff.
no.
So, anyways, there's these 5 or 6 zones across the planet where people
yeah.
live to like 100 years old.
Yeah.
Why is this? And that's what they went out and studied over like a 20-year period.
Yeah.
And the 3 commonalities within that are food, community, and exercise. And they're like, well, why are the people on the bottom of this Italy village not living as long? And what they discovered is like there's hills more in this Italy village
Right.
up here, and they were getting more
Right.
exercise. But the community aspect is what's so important that I've found as you get older in life. First when you're 19,
Sure.
28, younger, and you're like, where's the party at every
Right,
weekend?
you're surrounded by
And
people all the
yeah,
time,
exactly.
kinda.
But having good neighbors and good family and that kind of stuff, and creating that community aspect, because we're inherently social animals,
Right.
and you've got to have that in your life. And so that's kind of been a little bit more of my
Yeah, kinda keep
focus.
those pillars.
As you say, faith, it's more in the community that I've built around myself.
I dig it. Any shout outs on that? Like, are you neighborhood guy? Are you a big
Yeah.
golfer? Or do you have a gym that you love, or a men's group? Or...
Both, all the above. Here, our neighbors are fantastic. We've got 5+ neighbors that they all have kids, actually.
Okay.
And so Stacy and I are surrounded by
You're like the dinks.
Yeah.
The dinks that are always available.
Oh, we're the dinkwads, And so we have the kids in the neighborhood are 4 to 10. And
Okay.
so we're always the fun aunt and uncle of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And have that kind of fun aspect to it. So that's my community that we're directly involved with. Business people that obviously I interact with, yourself. And then I get a gym here in town, Manic Training.
Okay.
It's HIT training. They do a fantastic job of
You're
community.
looking good, by the way. You're probably 10 off of where you were
Am I?
18
don't-
months ago. I think so.
Yeah, possibly.
I'm about par.
Yeah, I've been training with Manic for almost 2 years now.
Okay.
And the one thing that attracted me to this gym, where I've done CrossFit, Jiu-Jitsu, Orange Theory, all that kind of stuff, the Manic training has the social aspect to it. And that's what I enjoy about the gym, because the owner operator there he's small business, and
Yeah,
he's very much about creating a community.
Cool.
And I think that's just and here's to some of the values of the community that I talked about.
It's not that easy sometimes. And so
Correct.
kudos to him for doing that
Yep.
and inspiring that in others.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable moving on. Are you ready for the grab bag questions?
Oh, sure.
This is new. Grab 3 ping pong balls out of here.
Do you get to grab one too?
No.
Oh.
They're I'm going to ask you the questions. The balls are associated with a question that Ava and I have come up with.
Oh boy.
And some lucky listener will receive a prize for responding back with the answer to one of your questions. So
Oh boy.
if you're listening out there, keep listening.
Okay.
And Phil, if you would.
I have a good one, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Or just even like,
The question?
out there. Well, not a question, but just, people always say, because FLEXX Productions is the company, right?
Yeah.
What does FLEXX stand for?
Yeah. That's a good
Do
question.
you
If I
want
was
to
a good host.
do you want to have a listener
That
call?
could be that could be one of your three questions.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
I think somebody
Okay.
should.
Why is there a
should-
double X on Flex?
There was two of us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that started the organization.
And what does it stand for?
Fort Collins Leading Event Experts.
Oh. And then there's two of you. So
There
you
was two of us that
double
started
X.
this. Yep. So that's where the acronym
That's cool.
came up
That's
from.
cool. I did
Yeah.
not know that. You don't talk about that enough.
Not a lot of people know that.
Yeah.
And,
Interesting.
but that's the acronym of where FLEXX Productions.
You
came
should
from.
actually promote that significantly at your April 16th party.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. And
I like it.
I always do the same thing, kind of say, what is it? Anybody know what it stands for? And 99% of people have never heard
I
of
didn't
it.
know about it.
Yeah.
And
So-
I've been around your radius for a while.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you can grab two questions. We'll probably choose that one. But
Let's get a number one here.
oh, number one.
What is on the agenda?
Yeah,
Number
what's that?
29.
Oh, man, 29's been picked.
Has it? Hold on, let's recycle it then. If it's
Okay.
hold on here.
It was in the last
26.
episode. 26.
Number one and number 26. What do you got for?
Okay, I like that one.
Okay.
What's your number 26 is what's your favorite way to unwind after a stressful day? Or most effective?
Having a glass of wine.
White wine?
yeah. Having a glass of wine is sitting out in the front yard with the pups. That's my go-to. We live in the middle of Fort Collins, just in a middle class house on a corner street.
Yeah.
And then one neighbor might come walking by and say hello, and then
Yeah.
another one comes by, and then hey, do you want a
I
beer or
love
cider?
impromptu neighbor parties.
Oh
They're
yeah,
the
and all of a
best.
sudden there's 5 or 6 of us out there talking about the families and the kids.
Yeah.
That's an amazing thing. So
Do you think you guys will get another dog?
yeah, I'm sure eventually.
Yeah.
We're dog.
Because he's kind of in the
Yeah.
tweener, right?
Yeah,
like
we're
you got like a
talking to
7-year-old
people, I mean-
dog. You're like, well, do I want to wait 7 years?
Yeah,
Does he want to be
well,
lonely for 7 years more?
No,
Or-
Foster needs companionship. It's very apparent as I've been walking him and meeting other dogs around, and we have neighbors with the dogs, and he
Like,
lights
could I
up.
go home with them?
Yeah, his
Yeah.
his sparkle is back when he's with another dog, and so I know eventually when the timing's right,
Yeah.
and a rescue is
Yeah.
always what we
Yeah.
we do. A dog that needs a love and the family that we're able to give.
Maybe it's worth going down to Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico. Very possible.
It's
very
worth
possible.
of a trip.
Yeah. Shout out to Leo at Barks of Hope. She is amazing solo rescue owner down there, and that's where we got them
Okay,
from.
okay.
She recently rescued a cow. His name is Burger.
Maybe you get a cow for Foster to be.
Well, Cece's talked about a cow multiple times, not in the middle of town. We don't have the place to do that. But yeah. So
Number one was the other one.
yep.
Oh yeah, this is fun. Your favorite childhood memory?
Boy, probably my favorite childhood memories now are hot air ballooning with the family.
Interesting.
They had some friends that were balloonists, and so we would go help set up the balloons, hot air balloons, and then you chase and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's a very tight knit community. The ballooning community is.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I started with a guy who was pretty.
So you went
when-
more than once up in the balloon?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was lucky enough to be able to go up multiple times.
Yeah, cool.
Working with this with the pilot at the time, and the balloon community is super tight. And here's another memory with Stacy and I. We were up in Steamboat they had a balloon rodeo, which they do every year.
Okay.
And so we were just happened to be up there. I didn't even think about it. And I was like, we got to the balloon event. And she was like, early in the morning. And so we ended up going to it. And 6:45, it's like, the pilot's meeting's in 5 minutes. Pilot's meeting's in 5 minutes.
Right.
No, come on, let's go to the pilot's meeting. She goes, you're not a pilot. We can't go to the pilot's meeting. I was like, we're going to the pilot's meeting. I start talking to this the pilot here. And I was like, hey, I grew up ballooning with this guy, Marty Hill, that's been in the community for 40, 50 years ballooning.
Sure.
He's
Like everybody knows
yeah.
Marty.
Oh my gosh, yeah. He's like, "Are you grew up with Marty and whatnot?" And I was like, "She's never been up." And I go, "If you'll take her up for a hop, just that'd be awesome and whatnot." He's like, "Well, if we take her up, we're gonna take her up the whole time." And Stacey's afraid of heights.
Oh.
And this guy had been ballooning for, I think it was like 26 years, super calm morning in Steamboat, and I'm like, "Get in the balloon," and she's like, "I'm not getting the balloon. No way." I was like, "Get in the balloon. You're not going to have a better thing. It's beautiful out and whatnot."
Right.
And he goes, "Well, I need somebody to have our chase vehicle, run our chase vehicle." And he's like, "Can you drive a truck and a trailer?" I was like, "Of course." Boom, keys like that. Guy I'd met for 20 minutes.
Awesome.
That's how tight the ballooning community is,
Awesome.
Yeah,
by your relationship with that old hat that you talked about,
Yeah.
like you were
Yeah.
already validated.
Yeah, as it's about connections
cool.
everywhere.
Motorcyclists are like that a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been a motorcyclist? It feels like you might.
Yeah,
have...
absolutely. I've ridden for, oh my gosh, 30 plus years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you have a ride right now?
No, I have, I got rid of a bike, but I started on like a little lady when I was maybe 10 or 12. I had a
Okay.
buddy that had a cabin and they had
Yeah.
motorcycles up there. And that's where I learned to ride an 80 and 125, 250
Yeah.
and up from there. And I've ridden, bikes across Peru with some buddies. I rode across Italy
Okay.
and Corsica
All
with
right.
some other buddies on some 1200 GSs.
Cool.
I mean,
You've done a bunch of stuff.
yeah, I mean, motorcycling is a great fun sport. And it's also a dangerous sport
It
too.
is.
So
Yeah, very much so.
It's a time relative thing that I look at. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you go down.
Yeah.
And if you get hurt when you're going down. So,
Yeah.
stay safe out there,
enough.
wear some gear and,
All right.
and but motorcycling's great.
And I lied actually because it can't be nearly as close knit as the hot air balloon community because, like, there's only there might be 50 or 100 hot air balloonists in Colorado, maybe 250 or some number, but it's not a ton.
I don't know the stats of the balloonists in Colorado, but it's a I mean, you got to be a certified pilot.
Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. FAA registered.
Is there like radios up there and stuff
Oh
too?
yeah.
Okay.
You're a certified pilot. There's
Okay.
a certain amount of training you get to get licensing to go up in FAA airspace.
Feels like I should just be able to. I'm a libertarian. I should just be able to build my own balloon and go up there if I want to. The airplanes need to watch out for me.
So yeah. So I you have to understand the air currents and the clouds and when to launch, and because the only controls you have in a balloon are up and down.
Yeah.
You got to understand how the air currents are going to take you and where they're going to take you
Interesting.
to be able to get where you kind of want to go.
Well, I took a 200 level meteorology class when I was in college, so I feel pretty near qualified.
So
Right, Phil says.
I'll spin off to a story within business because it's the
Okay.
best thing that you have in the rental industry is these wild stories.
Yeah, let's hear a couple.
So I'm going to spin off to a balloon story.
Okay.
Okay, so I get this phone call, and this guy calls me up, and he goes, "How much if?" Because we were in helium tanks back in the day. It was pretty common in this area to have balloons and for parties and whatnot.
yeah.
But this guy called up, and he's like, "How much will one of these tanks fill up, and how much will it lift?" And I go, I usually a tank will blow up 400 8-inch balloons and 250 12-inch balloons. That was the metrics that we had when there. He's like, but how much will it list? I was like, man, you're gonna have to call somebody at CSU or a professor
Right.
of how this kind of works and whatnot. So this guy comes and rents like 4 helium tanks from us, and and rents these tanks from us. I didn't really know who he was, and then all of a sudden one of my employees, 4 or 5 days later, they're like, dude, did you check out the news? That guy that rented the helium tanks from us, his kids in the freaking balloon. And I go, what are you talking about? And you flip on the news and all of a sudden we have this thing called the Balloon Boy.
Yes.
And I'm going, holy shit, what did we do here? But I was like, we didn't do anything. He rented the tanks from us. We just supplied this, and he did
it wasn't
whatever
like
he
was
did.
buying the ingredients for meth.
Yeah, and so I mean, this whole thing goes down, and I call him up because he's supposed to return them.
Do you remember when that was? Like 06, 07, something like that?
That was 11.
11. Oh, wait, okay.
I believe it was 11, if I recall right.
And for listeners that have no idea what you're talking about, do you want to give a
The Balloon Boy?
synopsis?
Just Google the Balloon Boy.
Okay.
And it was a guy that kind of did a hoax, of my kids in this balloon and just wanted some notoriety and whatnot.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're a rental company. The stuff's supposed to be returned by X date, right?
Oh, right.
And so like a week goes by, and I call him up, and I was like, "Hey, Richard, you got to bring these tanks back to me. You know, we're a rental company and whatnot." So he's like, "I can't leave my house. You come get
The
them."
prices
Yeah.
thick off.
So
me.
I go down there and I pick up to his house, and it's media row. There is 20
Right.
freaking cameras up and down the road there, and I pull up and park, just unmarked
Did you
pickup.
drive your? Yeah, I was going to say, did you
Unmarked
drive your
pickup.
branded truck?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I didn't want anything to do with this, and so I pull up right there, and I'm like, "Hey, man, you can't park there." We were done. I was like, "Oh, I'm here to pick up the helium tanks." 20 cameras
Oh,
mobilized off these tripod, boom, on their freaking, shoulder. Who you with, whatnot? And I go, private company. Walk up, knock on the door, and I get in there, and it's like blacked out in his house. The curtains are drawn, and I'm like, "What are you doing, man?" I was like, "I just need the helium tanks. Where are the helium tanks at? Load them out of the truck and then get out of there." And
Did it ever come out or anything?
Oh no, yeah, I didn't want anything to do with it at all.
Right.
This guy's on national news,
Well,
and,
for
and,
sure.
in sort of whatever trouble at the time. I had no idea. So there's my balloon story.
I like it.
Yeah.
Would that be your loco experience, your crazy experience, or do you have some other crazy experiences of your
I've
lifetime
had
that
a
you'd like to
couple.
share?
The most, the thing about the tenting industry is we install these big sails.
Right.
Big sails.
Yeah.
And if they become unanchored in weather elements, which they can, even if you take the most serious precautions,
Right.
they're still temporary structures / tents.
I've seen your dudes like screwing those big, like 18-inch long things in to anchor the tents down. But
we're very serious, professional, work with industry standards, are very safe conscious about what we do in our industry. We had an incident, and this was a subcontracted tent that we didn't install, but it was a big enough
part of your
tent.
operation. Yep.
Yeah, and this is back in 2006 when we didn't have products like this.
Yeah,
a
yeah.
100 by a 260-foot tent.
Okay.
So 26,000 square feet for a 800-person gala.
You're talking like basically a rodeo event center
This is, yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah. So this is a large tent. A microburst came through, pulled 140 42-inch stakes out of the ground, and threw this thing 100 feet to the east.
Before the event?
Before the event.
Okay, thank God.
Okay. Yeah. Before the event, about 4 days before.
Okay.
And so, and thank God nobody was standing to the east of where this thing landed. The center poles, there's 12 center poles on this thing. They're 35 feet high. They weigh 900 pounds each.
Oh, damn.
I mean, there would have been.
You are talking about a sale.
Yeah, I
Like-
mean, it scared me at my core, because in the end, as the leader
yeah.
of this organization,
Yeah.
I'm responsible for the safety of the consumer, the employees, and everybody. And we changed a couple of systems there, but there was nothing really we did wrong. It was one of those freak happenstance things, and I was lucky. I was lucky. The people were lucky
Yeah.
that were there.
Yeah.
They were all on the right side of the tent when it happened. And so that's one of those instances that I'll forever remember.
I was just thinking to myself, like you're talking about 100 by 260 foot space,
Yeah.
right? And like the ships that we used to sail across the ocean with might have like, a 3 triangular 50 by X or whatever, the actual air catching ability of a sailing ship is probably only a tenth of what
Yeah.
your tent was, like in terms of ultimate square footage.
Yeah, the tents are incredibly powerful in the wind, and
Yeah.
even a 20 by 20 foot, 400 square feet, you cannot control in big wind scenarios.
Yeah.
We do trainings with our employees as far as like when we're in wind scenarios and what to do, and the tent's not value 0. It's about staying safe and either
for sure.
anchoring it down or creating a safe situation.
And how did that work out? Because you said you subcontracted this.
Yep.
I guess that was his problem because his failure.
Yeah, well, it's still
kind
my
of thing.
problem because we're the name and the face of the
Fair.
of the actual client. The event ended up moving indoors, was the best solution. We did try to deploy another system, but it rained for 2 days straight, and it just became a mud pit in this field, and it was an adjustment we
Did
made.
you say 2011?
That was
a different
no wait
No, that was early. You said 06 or something like
yeah,
that.
2011 was Balloon Boy, and
Yeah.
no, this was not 06. I'm sorry.
I was just thinking. I think I went to Telluride Bluegrass Festival in 2011, and it was like rained all weekend. No, it was 13 or 12. I don't know. Anyway, I
Sure.
digress.
Yeah.
Don't matter.
So
Phil, if people think you're cool after listening to this show and they want to like make sure they get all their event rentals from you and from now on, you want to send them to where?
FLEXX Productions, FLEXX
XX.
Productions, 2 X's,
Yep.
is our website.
.com.
Yeah, and reach out to one of our team members. We have an appointment module on our website.
Book your own appointment.
where they can make an appointment and come by and have a
tour.
Yeah, I mean have a tour. We have a tour and a glass of wine, water, whatever when people come in, because we want them to be comfortable. We create an experience when people come in, because if you're a bride and a groom, you really don't know where to start with some of this stuff.
Yep.
And so our job is to really kind of coach them and say, here's your a la carte solutions and where we can come in and help and guide them to where they want to go within the vision that they have.
And we didn't focus on it, but like your showroom area there, like where you've got different kinds of fancy levels of plates and silverware and all these different kind of linens and different things, got to touch it and feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. People are welcome to come in and see our operation. We enjoy when people come to see what we do.
Anything you would ask me or declare before your...
Well, I'm trying to remember how you and I
episode is
met
over?
each other. Was it really Peach Fest?
I think so. I think I might have been Bear's Backyard Grill, the food trucker guy that was doing
That
grilled
sounds
half peaches.
about right. Yeah.
But I was also involved with like the...
You've been
like
in
the
Rotary
planning,
forever.
Yeah, I've been in Rotary for about that long, and I was in
Yeah.
the planning committee there and stuff like that for that event. So it's possible it was before then, but right around that time.
Yeah.
Because I had the food trailer with the red and blue umbrellas on top of it. It was grilling peaches that one of those first years anyway.
I think it's just interesting how time flies so much as
Isn't it?
you kind of get older and you think back to like, oh my gosh, how long was that?
I know, right.
and trying to figure that out. Those are the great times, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm impressed of, Kurt, also you as a small business where you've kind of come with the think tank and how far it's come. And I was lucky enough to be a member.
Yeah, you
and
remember a lot of years.
Yeah,
so.
I think it was 7 years.
I
And
hope to
and
have
then
you back
and
soon.
then being
Yeah.
possibly a member in the future and where the think tanks come and how much you give to the business community as far as that.
Well,
So,
thanks.
I think that's
A lot of
something to-
scrappiness, whether you're in a garage or
Yep.
in kind of a virtual setting like this.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
awesome.
So,
Well, Phil, Godspeed.
yeah.
See you next time.
Thanks, man. Appreciate
Yeah,
you.
Cheers.